Welcome into This Week in Missouri Politics. Heading into the holiday season, we are joined by the president of rural Missouri, the president of the Missouri Farm Bureau, Garrett Hawkins. Thank you for making the time.
Always great to be with you.
Kind of making this pre-Thanksgiving thing a tradition.
We are. Well, I mean, there's a lot to be thankful for, right? As we
is.
head into the Thanksgiving season, and obviously I represent those who are trying to feed the 98% of the rest of the population. So it's always good to talk about what we do.
Perfect time to come on and talk about that food supply. We're all going to enjoy Thanksgiving dinner with our families coming up here. That is brought to folks in Missouri by the Missouri Farm Bureau members all across the state. It feels like food. I feel like there's a problem here. I feel like food at the grocery store is getting more expensive, but I talk to farmers, I look at commodity prices, they're not going up.
That's right. I mean, we're at a margin, a real squeeze when it comes to farm profitability. And in fact, as you look at the data for the last 2 years, we have seen pretty much historic declines in net farm income in terms of the return back to the farm gate.
I look at cars, though. I look at people that make and sell cars. Their cost of cars or vehicles are going up, but the profits for the auto industry is going up. Why is that not working for the Missouri farmer?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of factors that go into it, Scott. You think about it, the last 2, really 3 years, we've experienced drought in the state. You know, we have market volatility all the time that we experience, particularly at the global level. So there are a lot of factors that play into it. But at the end of the day, we're still focused on taking care of our animals, producing bountiful crops. And this year we had really good harvest despite the drought that we experienced, kind of this flash drought. And our folks just stay determined to continue to eke it out and make it work and plan for the next year. We're optimists. We have to be.
Speaking of things to be grateful for, at the federal level, you have Donald Trump, who probably the biggest thing for us, the EPA administrator might be someone that doesn't hate farming.
That's right. Lee Zeldin from New York State. I think there's a lot to be excited about. Rural America spoke very, very loudly and resoundingly as we think about the November election. And so certainly there's much to come in the weeks and months ahead. I mean, the list is long.
Your predecessor down in Stoddard County, they voted 87% for Trump. Now, when you and I were first starting things, Stoddard County wouldn't vote 25% for a candidate. I mean, maybe a federal one, but no Republican won down there. Now they just voted 87% for Donald Trump.
Well, it just shows you the stark contrast that we're seeing.
From Charlie Cruz to you has been that big a difference.
That big of a difference, but that's how big the divide is from a policy standpoint and how people feel right now, right? I mean, people feel it in their pocketbooks, and that's what transpired, I think, at the November election.
People in Bloomfield and Puxico and Advance and Richland, I don't think they're any different than they have been for the last 50 years. I think maybe they feel like there's a party that they were a member of that changed, a party that they were not a member of that changed to their perspective, and they stay the same.
Yeah. What they do know is that they are not better off than they were 4 years ago, right?
Yep.
That's an easy question to answer.
I think that it's hard for a vice president because it's like, well, what are you going to do? I'm going to do all these things. Well, why didn't you do them? And so I think any vice president has a problem. But I think the fundamental problem was, I think most people, and clearly in Stoddard County, believe they were better off during Trump's 4 years than Biden's. But let me ask you about winning. Trump always talks about winning. You did a heck of a lot of winning this fall. I mean, everybody you endorsed. So let's walk through the list. Kehoe, Bailey, Hawley, Henderson in the Lead Belt, Jamie Berger in the Boot Hill, Curtis Gregory in the northern part of the state. I mean, you literally batted 1,000 this year on endorsements, including in the primary.
Yeah. This was a real pivotal year, I think, for Farm Bureau and grassroots engagement. You know, historically, most all of our political engagement happens after the primary. And this year, our members could see that now of any time, we need to be involved in a big way in primaries. And they made those decisions. And that started clear back in February.
They made those decisions. They endorsed Mike Kehoe when Mike Kehoe was down probably 30 points in the polls at that time. Yeah. They endorsed Curtis Gregory. He had a very tough race. Jamie Berger, I saw polls showing him down. These were not folks who cherry-picked the obvious winner. I mean, Andrew Bailey had a very tough primary, incredibly well-funded challenger. You made these endorsements back when even the most optimistic ones were 50-50 bets.
Well, but our members have a feel for their family, their friends, their neighbors. And when they come and participate in our grassroots political action process, they're carrying that feedback, they're carrying that awareness with them in terms of what the conversations are in their communities. And they're then making decisions that they know are best for the people that they represent at home, but then also looking out for Farm Bureau as well in terms of what best positions the organization based on the people that we see, the options that we have, and where we see that synergy from a policy standpoint.
That makes sense. Plus, it looks like you did something with the endorsement. Sometimes I see groups, they endorse, and it's a Facebook post or an email or something. I watched all of that, not just Farm Bureau, but led by Farm Bureau, get deeply involved in educating their members and driving those messages home.
The governor-elect has pointed out before that he saw Farm Bureau people at every stop that he made on his bus tour, which was completely remarkable, the bus tour that he did.
Yeah.
Just golly, he was everywhere. And our people were everywhere as well. And, Scott, this is a reminder that when people talk about campaigns, people want to talk about money, money, money. But from our standpoint, grassroots engagement still matters. Boots on the ground, people talking to their neighbors, their friends, having conversations at the coffee shop and feed store, that is still important when it comes to Missouri politics. So I think we saw that.
Especially in the primary.
And I think we saw that in a big way in the primary.
Let's talk about an issue you brought up. The post office is wanting to cut rural routes and how quickly they deliver things in rural Missouri. I now am more dependent than ever on receiving packages and mail. I mean, I don't like all the mail, but the mail I need. And they're talking about cutting back on deliveries in rural Missouri.
Rural transportation optimization is what they're calling it. Really what it is a rural train wreck operation is how I've dubbed it. I mean, so you go back a few months. In August, the leadership in the head shed of the U.S. Postal Service hatched an idea of how they're going to try to help lessen the bleeding, right? I mean, they lose billions of dollars every year. So one of the ways is, based on your zip code, you're going to have slower delivery. So that's the easiest way to explain it.
So the elites get out in Washington and decide, I know who we're going to stick it to. Rural America.
Rural America, yes. So if you live beyond 50 miles beyond one of their 60 regional hubs around the country, what they want to do at your rural post offices is eliminate the afternoon pickup. So you think about it. The mail comes in that morning. Our great carriers get it sorted. It goes out the door, gets to your farm or to your home. They pick up, take it back to the office, and it goes out that night. That's what they want to eliminate. So guess what? Our outgoing mail then gets delayed till the next morning to go out. So you're talking at least a day that's cost. And even internally at the U.S. Postal Service, they're saying 68%, 68% of the time, rural folks are going to see delayed service.
Everybody at the plaza gets their mail the same day. Everyone in the Central West End gets their mail the same day. Again, it's the Missouri elitist versus Missouri.
Just, it's amazing. Once we put it up on Facebook, shared our letter, the number of members who are commenting on the delayed service that they received today. One commenter said, I mailed from Lake Ozark Post Office to go to another Lake Ozark residence, and it took 15 days. How did that happen?
Is it a statement, though, of the power of the organization that you run? I had never heard of this issue at all, didn't know this was happening. There's a great responsibility, but a great opportunity. When you're the president of the Missouri Farm Bureau, when you draw attention to something, it becomes the story of the day.
Well, I'm reminded every day who I represent, Scott. And truly, you hear me talk all the time about how we bring the kids home to the farm or to the community. And yes, we're going to continue to work on farm profitability through a new farm bill and the new Congress and the new administration. But ultimately, we have to keep addressing these rural quality of life issues, infrastructure, broadband, access to affordable health coverage, and rural.
Let me just interrupt you. We've talked about this before. You've got a simple plan. Everybody says something and lets you, I have a simple bill. You actually have a simple plan.
We do.
That would dramatically increase options, competitiveness, and access to healthcare in rural Missouri. The supermajority. There is a supermajority. It's the Republicans. There's also a supermajority of that supermajority, and it's rural Republicans. Why do rural legislators have to kowtow to the urban liberal Republicans on every little thing they want to do, shove the government in your throat everywhere you can find it? But when we need friends, the urban liberal Republicans are nowhere to be found.
Well, that, and then we have some, let's say from the contract lobby corps that, want to defeat this. But the reality is, what's sad is there are hardworking farmers and families in rural areas who have very little choice in today's marketplace. And what is there is not affordable if you don't qualify for a subsidized plan. So in today's world, we have hardworking people who are going without insurance because they can't afford it. And yet we have people that want to sit on our hands here at the state level when we have a solution that will not cost the Missouri taxpayers a dime. All our people are asking for is an additional choice. And guess what? When we're able to do this, Scott, in some of our rural counties, we will double the options that they currently have available on the marketplace with another option through Missouri Farm
It
Bureau.
makes so much sense. I guess my point to you is it not time to demand that the Republican leadership delivers, or does rural members, who are the supermajority of this thing, need to demand different leadership?
Well, I mean, like I said before, we want rural justice. We don't expect to be treated better, but we shouldn't receive lesser service, lesser
Are we gonna
options.
get it until we demand it?
Oh, we're going to continue to demand it.
But is it not time to say,
It is.
whatever screwball, urban, liberal, Republican stuff you want to do, we could talk about that.
We can.
But
That's
this
fine.
is the one time we're getting ours first.
We have to have it. In today's world, it's almost 2025, and we
It
still
doesn't
have.
affect any of them cul-de-sac Starbucks people.
It does not. It won't affect the marketplace. There are 10 states where this is allowed to happen now. And in fact, you look to our south in Arkansas, passed with bipartisan support on a consent bill. Like, this is a no-brainer in neighboring
You worry
states.
too much that members of the Farm Bureau, rural legislators, I know there's a lot of talk about a crime plan in St. Louis. God knows
Sure.
they need it. I think it's a great thing. But is it not time we demand rural Missouri gets ours first? Is it not? Is it not a little tiring to have the entire legislature constantly obsessed with the city of St. Louis?
It is. And again, we care about crime too, and
It's a great thing.
we want to see it addressed.
We'll benefit if
We
St.
will-
Louis tackles its crime problem.
Absolutely, we will benefit. And you've heard me say before, I think we have so much more in common with the urban core than a lot of people realize when it comes to property rights and some of the
fight
issues.
for rural Missourians is with folks in an urban core. I think it's with the suburban Republicans. That's where we are.
I just give us the green light to allow us to serve our people like they're asking to be served, with not a dime of taxpayer money. In fact,
You don't tell people they can't live in cul-de-sacs.
No.
You don't tell people they can't buy Priuses, and we make fun of them. You don't
Sure.
tell people they can't go to Starbucks. I don't know why they tell us we can't have health care.
Yeah, it's life-changing in the states where it is allowed to happen, where the legislatures have worked with their respective state farm bureaus, and they are making headway in addressing this donut hole that truly is unconscionable, that we have a donut hole of hardworking people who have been left behind. We can fix it, and it's not going to cost the government anything.
Garrett Hawkins, the leader of rural Missouri, thank you for Thanksgiving, and good luck to the next legislative session.
Thank you. Always great to be with you.
We will be right back with our opinion maker panel. We got a debut. Nick Kimble from South St. Louis City is joining us after this.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
You know, Missouri farmers have been doing what's best for their land for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening Missouri farmers' best defense against weeds? Our farmers don't need to be controlled. They need to be supported. Keep glyphosate in our state. Show your support at TakeControlMissouri.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Missouri farmers.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back. This week in Missouri politics, busy week in state politics. Even though there's no elections or legislature, we are joined by freshman Representative Nick Kimble from South City, St. Louis. Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, good to be here, Scott.
Francis Park?
Francis Park, The Hill, Italian food.
Donna Behringer endorsed.
Yes.
Then you're good
absolutely.
people. Sharon Jones, thank you so much for making the time.
Always a pleasure.
Cathy Joe Lloyd, thank you so much for joining us. Not your first time on the show, but your first time after winning the election, right?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
And television, radio, internet fame, the top show on X, Austin Petersen, thank you so much for making the time.
Thanks for having me.
You're working Sundays. You usually work Monday to Friday, right?
Yeah, no, I'm usually working Sundays to Sunday these days because it's been a really busy year, as I'm sure you know well. I'm always here before Jefferson City wakes up. I'm the first guy on the street here getting ready to tell the news to the country. And boy, there's been a lot of good news the last week, Scott.
You're up earlier than me, but I drink too much. Let's talk about a guy that's going to get returned to Missouri's Ryan Land, the Missouri's Attorney General, Andrew Bailey. I mean, the guy's a bulletproof tiger. He's risen from an assistant counsel or something at corrections to now Missouri's Attorney General. He beat all of New York and Washington, won every county in his primary, won his general easily, was on the short list to be the United States Attorney General. I tell you, what an amazing thing for just a kid from Gasconade County going to be a war hero still, but what an amazing air for him to tread.
Yeah, Missouri has a deep bench of talent, of players that go on to the national scene for the Republican Party. I mean, the conservatism of Missouri, for good or for ill, does represent the rest of the United States, I think, very well. People used to always talk about Iowa being the first caucus because it's very representative of the country at large. But I think if you look at Missouri's attorney general picks, like Eric Schmidt had to withdraw his name from consideration. Obviously, a lot of top brass in the Republican Party look at Missouri politics and Missouri politicians as people who they're guarded, they're safe picks, right? Because they actually have resumes, they have credentials.
Good for Matt Gaetz, but even better for the state of Missouri.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, they get to keep our Attorney General, that Missourians overwhelmingly, they said no to the East Coast and their money, and chose the war hero from Herman.
Right. And I thought both picks for our Attorney General were good. I liked Will, but we want to keep Andrew, and it keeps some continuity here that I think is important for Missouri right now.
Sharon, he did talk about he wanted to do this job for a while. But there's nobody that I know in politics that wouldn't interviewed for the United States Attorney General position.
Well, that part's definitely true. I mean, I think that it's obviously one of the highest jobs you can have as an attorney anywhere in this country. I hope that this is a chance for our Attorney General to actually run his office. That has been my complaint from day one, that this, he is letting the little things go, the everyday work of the Attorney General. Not the big political show, but the things like defending the state against work comp. Things like that, he needs to get in there and do that right if he wants to continue to do this.
I agree with you. However, I think it's totally fair to say Hawley, Schmidt, Bailey, they did file a lot of these lawsuits. A lot of them were for attention, obviously. However, the people of the state have endorsed that strategy 3 times now. Sure. So I agree with you. But I also think it's fair to say the folks like the candy a little bit more than the vegetables.
That's very true.
Great point.
But Hawley and Schmidt ran their office as well as
Did
did
you
the
say
political
Josh
stuff.
Hawley ran his office?
Oh,
Well,
come on.
He had deputies who did the work. He didn't end up with default judgments in the multi-millions of dollars.
And again, I'll defend Hawley. If the National Party came to someone the week they got elected and said, okay, you're going to be our United States Senate nominee, they would have did the same thing Josh Hawley did. I'll defend him on that point. I don't know that many folks say he ran a great office. Tell me, it is nice though, whatever administration, it's nice to see Missourians in that conversation at the highest level.
Completely agree. I mean, back when Democrats were running Missouri, I think, like Austin said, right, outkicked the coverage, good bellwether of the country. Really excited to see us be in the conversation. Eric Schmidt, Roy Blunt did a lot of great things for the entire state. I'm excited to see that legacy carry on. I will say I would much rather see Andrew Bailey in the Attorney General seat than Representative Gaetz, but glad to have him here.
Let's talk about Justin Sparks. So last fall, the members voted to make a speaker designate John Patterson. Last week, they voted again after he led HRCC to one of its most successful nights in the history of the party, retaining all 111 seats of their supermajority. Last week, they voted again to say, you're the guy. Sunday night, Justice Sparks says, I'm going to mount a challenge. It had to be a little bit of fun for you to watch.
It is a little bit of fun, and you know me, I'm a policy wonk. I've been doing this for decades. The process doesn't really allow for that kind of challenge, right? What normally happens is the majority speaker designee gets nominated, the minority floor leader gets nominated, the minority floor leader then withdraws their name from consideration, and it's done.
But the process did what it's supposed to do. You pick a next leader of the caucus.
Oh, sure. I'm
so
talking
they
about
can
when
go
we get to
raise
the
the money
floor.
to bring back the caucus. So for Ben Keithley, the process of having a speaker a year early so he can lead HRCC and raise all the money, I think it worked for him.
It worked perfectly, and it will work perfectly going forward. This is a last-ditch effort from the Freedom Caucus folks to try to get themselves into leadership because they lost all those leadership races.
And you're just not as relevant with a small malcontent caucus in the House as you are in the Senate.
True.
Representative, I assume you were probably a little surprised because you had just like a few days before said, yeah, John Patterson's the guy.
Yeah, I was. And, you know, I want to be efficient, and I want to do the right thing for my constituents. And if I get set in the corner because of rules that I don't even understand yet, and so I want to make sure I'm very cautious here. And John and I have had open conversations. We disagree on some of his stances, but as a representative government, he represents his constituents really well. Justin, the same thing. And so it was a little bit of a
Yeah.
As an incoming freshman, I'm just a little taken back.
It's your choice. Would you rather accomplish things with less fervor or accomplish little, but have a lot of Facebook posts, right?
Right. No, I want to move that ball forward in increments. I think that's what good governments does.
I won't put you on the spot, but do you hear a lot of clamor for the folks you spent the week with to dump John Patterson after the great success you had just last week?
No. And, but I do, we're all talking about it. We are all concerned because we've got constituents that are already pouring into us, emailing us, texting us.
I love it when Gail fires it up. See, no better provocateur than Gail. Austin Petersen, it is an interesting dynamic. You have a process set up so that you can retain all these seats, and it includes fundraising. People that think it's not, ask Newt Gingrich. He's the kind of the guy that, for Republicans that said, this is how we're going to keep this majority pretty successfully. You want to, after the system works, it's a little bit of a tough argument. It's after it worked better than it's ever worked. Let's get rid of all that.
Yeah, well, let me just say, first of all, that I've known Cathy for quite a long time and that I'm thrilled that she is here in Jefferson City. I'm also scared for her because I know that she's one of those good people that like can come into a town like this and get chewed up. So I wish you the best, and I'll be here to support you.
I'd more be afraid with the town than her.
Well, but I'll say this: there doesn't seem to be a lot of appetite for challenges to leadership, because if you compare this to, despite the fact that there is a lot of appointments like Matt Gaetz or Tulsi Gabbard in the national level, people who are challenging the status quo for some of these picks. If you look at the Senator John Thune, for example, like they picked the most establishment senator to run the House or the Senate, right? They're not going to challenge Speaker Johnson. We found out on the House side of things. There seems to be this desire, too, to get things done.
The only thing worse than getting nothing done is getting a lot done. The public is, whatever the wonderful priorities are, if you do all that, it will not be good for Missourians. I don't believe government doing very many things is very good.
True.
But you've got to sit and watch these people hate each other. And it looks like it's continuing, right? I mean, you get to pop some popcorn and say, fight it out, fellas.
It's been a nice show the first week. Definitely excited. I didn't think it would happen already, but yeah, it's been good to watch.
They couldn't even celebrate the greatest night they ever had for a solid week. They're back at this stuff.
I would think they would be happy. I mean, both sides slugged it out and turned out into a wash.
Prediction: how many votes do you think actually publicly on Facebook or actually at a thing come out for Justin Sparks?
Oh man,
under 10.
I guess I'll have to defer to how many calls or texts you're getting. Under 10.
Sharon, what do you think? At the end of the day, how many people vote president, go on Facebook and support him, or just don't vote or whatever?
I don't think he gets a second.
What do you think?
I think I'm going to wait for Winter Caucus next week and see what unfolds.
One big happy family comes together.
That's what I'm hoping.
Austin, give me an approximation of let's count coming out public on Facebook. Let's count voting present in the vote for speaker. We're voting for Justice Sparks for speaker. How many people do you think make an affirmative public declaration? Therefore?
Not enough information to make a statement.
If I gave you the over-under on 10, what would you take?
Still not enough information to make it. They arrested my poly markets guy. I've been using the betting markets to make determinations, and so
If they have a betting market on this, I'm interested.
they just arrested the CEO. Yeah, they do.
might.
They bet on the local races as well, the state races and things like
If I
that.
just give you $1,000, can you put me down on Petersen being speaker?
I'm gonna dither hither blither and say maybe 5 out of 10, 50-50.
Sharon Jones, MoDOT announced a new director. Wow. I mean, I've not seen a 2 on 10 that hard. I mean, it was telling. They announced it's somebody in interior MoDOT, whatever. They had some pretty applicants that could have been transformative. They chose to skip all that and do a stopgap for a few months. I mean, all that GR money, I think MoDOT could be like, hey, see ya.
Yeah, it's not very politically savvy, but it makes sense from an administrative point of view. We've got all this construction that needs to get done before the weather turns. So I can see why that would be a good delaying decision. Let's keep the ship going in the same direction while we decide who's going to turn it next. But it was definitely a shock, and I don't think it was very politically savvy.
I mean, I think it's very telling that 24 hours after this announcement that it looked comically bad. I mean, whoever set that up just did I don't know what they were thinking. I hope they're better building roads than setting up press conferences. But 24 hours later, the incoming governor, Mike Parson, nor the governor-elect had said a peep about this.
Right.
I don't think anyone was on this mess.
Yeah, I don't think so. And it was just a little surprising. I really did think Lincoln had it.
Well, I think there's several folks that were up there. This would have been the one that I guess they're they're privately assuring everyone, oh, it's just temporary. Man,
Is it?
I've seen a lot of temporary people stay a long time. But also with a minute left, who won the week?
Missouri marijuana purveyors, they just won a case for an appeals court here in Missouri that they are not required to pay a 3% tax if they are in unincorporated districts here in the state of Missouri. So 3% less tax for your delicious gummies.
That's good for Casey. Who won the week?
Eric Schmidt, he's loyal to Missouri. He loves Missouri, and he proved it by saying, I'm here to work for Missourians as our U.S. Senator.
Love it. Who won the week?
I've got to give it to Justin Sparks. His name's on everyone's lips. It will be very short-lived. It's his 15 minutes of fame, but I have to give him this week.
But he probably goes all the way to January with it. Why would you not?
Nah.
You don't think so?
I think after winter caucus, it's over.
Well, that sounds like an insider deal.
Never.
Who won the week?
Next generation of political leadership, whether you like Trump or not, they're turning over the keys to J.D. Vance, Eric Schmidt, someone else. Same for the Democrats. I saw a few articles. Already got 3 or 4 folks lined up in New Hampshire.
I think that's a good thing.
Don't disagree.
Say another good thing. I think Andrew Bailey won the week. He gets to stay in Herman. Doesn't have to deal with all the mess out on the East Coast. I think Missourians won the week also by keeping the Attorney General that they reelected him with a historic margin in that primary. We hope you'll win the week next week by joining us for This Week in Missouri Politics.
This Week in Missouri Politics is sponsored by the Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, Ameren, Spire, and the United Electric Cooperative.